how do you see education evolving beyond just the first job, but also like your second, third job, and really finding that fulfillment in your career?
Yeah, so I'm 57, so that what is different is your generation is extraordinarily different than the expectations that we had. So I stayed at my first company, or my second company after I got laid off from the first company, for 17 years.
Wow.
And the only reason that I left is because we spun out a division, took it public, and it got acquired.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I probably would have stayed for even a longer time.
And
so that was the expectation.
That's so different to today.
Absolutely correct. And so, but there are universal skills that you could benefit from knowing. Communication. Right? Critical thinking. And language. But today's language is technology. It's not Latin like it was when I was growing up. And so understanding those things, but I think if you just asked somebody, if you didn't call it tech, and you said, would you like to know the 9 things that every employer wants a young person to have when they're going to go take a job? And if you could get better at them, would you? I think everybody would say yes. And if you don't know how to use Office 360, you're not going to be very good in finance. Because if you can't master an Excel spreadsheet, doesn't matter how smart you are, how critical your thinking is. If you can't organize the information, you're of no value. Right? If you're a creative type and you can't use Adobe, very little value. And so from my standpoint, I think we should take away the stigma of calling it tech, because I think people confuse that with coding, or that you're going to go into a technology job. You're going to go into a job, and it's going to require you to learn and use the processes and systems that are available. And all of them are predicated on technology. Now, in terms of your other question, I believe, based on my own career, and based on what I see from the millions and tens of millions of young people that we work with, and my own 2 daughters and their friends, life's very serendipity. So when I go back and speak at my college, they say, Dan, did you always know you were going to run a company like Yahoo when you were chief operating officer there? And I was like, in 1983, they hadn't invented the internet, a cell phone, broadband, data. We barely had a computer. It was much bigger, and I got a C in the class. So the answer is, the world keeps going. The world keeps evolving. And if you want to participate and grow and have the opportunity to experience many things in your life, you are going to have to keep investing in yourself.
And I think you made a lot of great points. I think when it comes to high school kids picking their majors or picking careers, a lot of it comes from parents. And I'm personally a mentor to kids in Oakland through iMentor, and what I'm seeing is that not only are a lot of people, a lot of parents not involved in terms of guiding their kids and preparing them for the future of careers, but the ones that do, they kind of push their kids towards roles that might have been popular 20, 30 years ago when they were going through those stages, like civil engineering, like becoming a doctor and becoming an investment banker. And all those things used to provide job stability and financial security in the past, but nowadays the narrative has changed. So how do we convince the parents, and how do we educate the parent so they can position their kids for a better future?
Well, I have to argue a little bit with your premise. I don't think there's anything wrong with pushing your kid to be something like a doctor.
I agree.
Or even those other professions, to be honest with you. I think the point that you guys make, the one that resonates best with my audience, and I think with myself even as a parent, is you want your child to understand that the world's changing. And the pace of change is different than it was when we were growing up. And that jobs that once seemed inevitable and secure are no longer either. So given that's the world they're going to grow up in, what we shouldn't do is limit them to a single point of view, but rather allow them to experiment. It's like the same thing with athletes. The best athletes that I know, and I'm very fortunate to know a bunch of them that came out of Stanford and play in the NFL, every one of them, whether it's Andrew Luck or Zach Ertz or Kobe Fleener or David DeCastro, all these big-time NFL players, every one of them will tell you they played multiple sports growing up, not just one, and football wasn't even necessarily their favorite sport. right? So Zach was basketball, Andrew was soccer, DeCastro almost went to the Olympics for swimming, even though he's 330 pounds. So I asked him if he was going as a buoy. But you know what you learn is you've got to keep evolving and learning, and you've got to be able to recognize that whatever you pick now may not be what you're going to be doing later, because it may not even be around. And that's just a fact of life right now.
Can I just so I definitely realize that like tech is not only the answer, obviously, and there's other professions that can provide that job security. I think what we're seeing with a lot of our community members is a lot of them get on the path, let's say, to become a doctor and go through med school, and they start realizing that the process takes like 6 to 10 years for them to get into a place where they can get that job security, where alternatively we see a lot of people with computer science degrees right out of college getting jobs at Twitter, making like stupid amount of money as a new grad salary, like 130 base plus bonuses and all that other stuff. So I think it's valuable for parents who realize that you can be making a good like stable salary when you're out of college. Like it's no longer just that no longer just going into the medical field or law or finance. There's other paths where you can get there sooner, but the parents haven't caught up, I guess, to the trends of the future. So anything particular that you think parents should pay attention to or should read or should check out?
Well, look, I think what we need to be careful of is people have different lenses. They have different desires. They have different skills. They have different goals in terms of mission-driven companies, non-mission-driven companies. You mentioned Mission U. Chegg is very much a mission-driven company. Twitter's a mission-driven company. But so is being a doctor, and so could be being a lawyer, and so could be being a social worker in your community. So for everybody, they need to evaluate what will bring them the greatest joy if they're successful in it. And then what does it take to be successful in it? You will never become successful if you don't focus and put in the time. And so the message to parents would be that the world of opportunity has evolved dramatically since when we were first picking our professions. And so now you can open your eyes and help your child understand that there are many ways to contribute to society, to earn a living. And there are jobs that used to pay high that maybe don't pay as high as they used to because of whatever reason those industries evolved. And so if you take a look at lawyers, 20 years ago, 50% of kids got into law school. Today, 90% of kids get in. Why is that? Because half as many people are going to law school, right? So it's what I would say to parents is, the same thing that my kids tell me I'm supposed to say to them, which is it's their life. Let them make their own mistakes. Let them find their own path. But if they're going down the path of understanding the impact of technology and what it can do for the good and how they can contribute, that those are very high-paying jobs that can last a long time, and they shouldn't. They should be considered as important as the other jobs that you might have been considering for them.
I think that's a great answer. And given that, Chegg kind of like had this philosophy early on, or like this issue growing up where, in order to get a job, you need experience. And in order to get experience, you needed a job. And a lot of people that are coming out of college.
And so people know that's where the name Chegg came from, which is which came first, the chicken or the egg. College is really expensive. So in order to afford college, I need a job. But in order to get a job, I need a college degree. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? And hence the name Chegg.
And a lot of these people are graduating from college, from alternative forms of education. They're trying to figure out, again, how to navigate. And even before the job, now companies are thinking about apprenticeships and internships. How do you think about apprenticeships and internships? Do you think that more companies are going to start creating them? Do they have to create them just because there's a lot of job openings?
Well, look, here's what we do know. The statistics show that you're substantially more likely to get a paying job almost immediately upon graduation if you've had a paid internship. So it's to your advantage to have one. You don't have to have one every year. And it doesn't even have to be one at the kind of company you're going to end up working at. But what an internship can do for a young person is help them evaluate company size, company culture, job responsibility. How am I supposed to dress? What time do I come in? How do I talk to people? How do I work as a team? How do I use email and Slack and all of these other things, as opposed to, living your world through emojis? Although all of our interns have taught us how to put emojis into our communication. So we both learn from each other, but we take 34 interns a year here because we understand the importance of it to the young person and the company benefits, because you get new thinking and new energy and creativity, and you learn what your future customer base might look like. So I think every company should offer to them, and I think every company should pay to offer them, assuming they can afford to pay. Not every startup that you talk to can take in. But the experience is invaluable for practical reasons and soft reasons. And I also think that apprenticeships are really valuable. So if you look at today, if you look at manufacturing, I'm recently invested in a company called Cluster Inc., which is working on modern day manufacturing. Most young people never think about that. And so apprenticeships have a lot to do here, because there's apparently something like 250,000 manufacturing companies in the U.S. There's 12 million jobs. There's been 1 million new ones created in the last year and a half or so. 750,000 of them go unpaid, and they're actually for high-paying, technology-driven manufacturing, as opposed to only working on the manufacturing floor, which historically was what it was for. So, when you look at where things are going, you can apprentice at some of these companies and never having imagined it before. And so from my standpoint, any opportunity you get to find yourself in a job environment, take it. And you can learn what you don't like as much as you can learn what you like. But most people end up being successful finding a culture and an environment that gets the best out of them. So there's there's lots of people called dream jobs, but jobs are jobs. They're hard. And they're not always fun every day. So the way you fight through that pain is to be in an environment in which the people you're working around and the mission you're on are worth fighting for.